In Wednesday, a supernatural mystery comedy television series, Morticia sits by Wednesday's hospital bed. Morticia reads from Macbeth to try to wake Wednesday from a coma after a fall. Morticia makes a meta-theatrical comment on her choice of reading, saying that nothing like death, despair, and dismemberment to try and snap her out of her coma. Greetings, everyone. My name is Alice Joubin. Thank you, Jasmine Seymour and Armin Galashayan, for inviting me to deliver the keynote lecture at the Armenian Shakespeare Association's 2026 conference in beautiful Yerevan. The example from Wednesday I cited is but one of many examples of Macbeth's popularity around the globe. The play has a long afterlife across multiple media. This makes the tragedy a perfect specimen to showcase the value of comparative analysis. In my keynote today, I would like to highlight the educational benefits of contrasting different performances of the same pivotal scenes. In theorizing inclusive pedagogy through comparative film study, I will use global adaptations of Macbeth as case studies. My goals are to introduce educators to lesser-known but valuable non-anglophone adaptations and to suggest how to use them with anglophone adaptations in class. Through open access educational resources, such as my own textbook, screeningshakespeare.org, we can think adaptation and film theories through each other. My online book is freely available to everyone. It is designed with inclusivity in mind, featuring many film clips for the teaching of social justice, mise-en-scène, cinematography, feminism, sound and music, and more. Another open access resource is the MIT Global Shakespeare, which I co-founded. There, we can conduct comparative analysis of the witch figure in films like Kurosawa's Throne of Blood from Japan and Atunes Vilho's Trono de Sangue from Brazil, as well as experimental theater adaptations such as Po-shen's Sonata of the Witches from Taiwan and Yukio Ninagawa's Cherry Blossom Macbeth. Teaching contrasting performances of the same scenes promotes an inherently comparative approaches to Macbeth and embeds the playtext in non-hierarchical networks of ideas rather than isolating it as a point of origin for dramaturgical meanings. Further, discussion of directorial choices in staging and filming actually leads to increased awareness of one's own decision-making process, something known as metacognition. Often perceived as the catalyst for plot development and debates about culpability, the Weir sisters are probably the most iconic and memorable characters in Macbeth. They have been reimagined in different veins around the world as male, female, gender fluid, hallucinatory, supernatural, intermediary, and post-human characters. Drawing on the resources available at Global Shakespeare, we can integrate a few contrasting interpretations into our teaching of Macbeth. When Macbeth seeks out the Weir sisters to seek advice on securing his kingship and asks them, "What is it you do?" they tell him that they are engaged in a deed without a name. This deed could be interpreted as transcending human language and moral order. It can be understood as an attempt at communicating with beings located outside the normative domain. Humans have not yet developed a vocabulary to describe these deeds. In the opening scene of Akira Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, the warlord Washizu, it's the film's Macbeth figure, and General Miki, who is Banquet, the two of them are lost in a dense forest. Desperate to find his way out, Washizu shoots an arrow into a tall treetop, which triggers an unearthly laughter. Macbeth and Banquo see a modest bamboo hut emerging from the fog. Consisting of thin vertical sticks, the hut evokes a cage. Sitting inside it is a person with long, uncombed hair. And this person is spinning yarn, like a spider spawning threads to weave and entrap this person seems to be oblivious to the presence of Washizu and Miki. The single spirit in human form condenses and embodies all the qualities of Shakespeare's three weird sisters. The mountain spirit appears to be turning a double-spooled spinning wheel, but the otherwise mundane domestic chore takes on an eerie overtone when the film audience realizes that the spirit does not, in fact, touch the fiber. It is simply spun from the smaller wheel onto the larger one. Spinning the yarn does not produce any fabric, which suggests the spirit's otherworldly status and that Macbeth's pursuits are but insubstantial vanity projects. The spinning wheel as a narrative device of entrapment works on three levels of Japanese speakers who understand the word thread, which is ito, and it is homophonous with treasonous intent, ito. As the wheel give the illusion of movement and mocks domestic productivity, they also represent the ways in which the characters are caught up in cycles of senseless violence and Washizu's futile pursuit of glory. Since the wheels that are spun also resemble reels of film, the act of spinning yarn on double-spooled wheels allude to filmmaking as a representational practice that mediates between nature and artifice. Like a filmmaker who edits scenes to construct a narrative, the mountain spirit here is editing the life story of Washizu. As Judith Buchanan notes, Washizu and Miki are both verbally confronted with their futures and visually confronted by the medium in which it is told. When the mountain spirit vanishes into the fog, Washizu and Miki rush in and tear down the hut's cloth wall, and they walk right through. When they turn around, the hut has also vanished. They now occupy the space previously occupied by the mountain spirit, a space of perverse nature. In that space lies a pile of skulls, skeletons, and weapons, a symbol of the futility and cruelty of war. The transition suggests that the mountain spirit embodies the grudging souls of the dead, likely the casualties of wars. Many adaptations beyond Japan pay tribute to Kurosawa. For example, Atunes Vilho's Brazilian film, Trono de Sangue. On MIT Global Shakespeare, you can view the first scene with the three witches alongside other performances of the same scene, such as the mountain spirit in Kurosawa. In the Brazilian production, a platform with three figures, all clad head to toe in white, ragged clothes, they descend from the ceiling as Macbeth and Banquo approach the stage. The bare stage features three white walls that contrast with the shiny floor in bright red. One of the witches is spinning wool on a wheel. The scenery design pays tribute to Kurosawa, but evokes Parsi, feminine personification of destiny in Roman mythology, instead of the notion of retribution in Shinto Buddhism in Kurosawa. The contrast between the colors of white and red literalize the cruelty of the witch's statement about battles being both lost and won. In Taiwan, Hsing-kuo's Beijing opera, The Kingdom of Desire, pays homage to Kurosawa in many scenes, particularly the final scene in which the Macbeth figure dies on a balcony by arrows shot by his own soldiers. There are also animated films influenced by Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, and so Wu's production directly mirrors the ending of Throne of Blood. In 2001, Satoshi Kon, known for his exploration of the boundaries between fiction and reality, directed the meta-cinematic Millennium Actress. Following the former actress Chiyoko Fujiwara down memory lane, as she is filmed in a television documentary, Millennium Actress visually recreates several iconic scenes from the Throne of Blood. For example, there was a witch who operates a set of spinning wheels. There's a Yukio-themed woodblock print, and even blood-stained wooden walls that record the scene where the Macbeths murder Duncan in Kurosawa's film. Most striking is actually what you see on the screen here, a cameraman being shot by arrows against a wall, which is a direct reference to the same scene in Kurosawa, which depicts the demise of Macbeth. In 2010, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival staged a production directed by Chong that combined visual and oral elements from Kurosawa with ritualistic pageantry, elaborate sound score, grand sets, and costumes evoking the visceral power of Throne of Blood for contemporary English language audiences. Paying homage to Kurosawa, Yukio Ninagawa's productions also thematized death as a force driving human pursuits and as an inevitability. For each of them, Ninagawa worked from a set of compelling images to immerse audiences in the play world and to visualize key themes. His Macbeth earned the nickname the Cherry Blossom Macbeth for the visual motif that dominates the production. A cherry tree, as you can see here, and its falling petals adorn many of the key scenes in the play, providing an uncanny link between extreme forms of violence and transcendental beauty. Even in scenes when the large cherry tree is not part of the stage set, cherry tree motifs adorn costumes and screen doors in the palace. Inspired by the early 20th century Japanese author Motojiro Kaji's widely circulated phrase, "dead bodies are buried under the cherry trees." Multiple scenes in Ninagawa's 1980 production of Macbeth connects death with a cherry tree in full blossom on stage. The tree becomes a symbol of transcendental beauty and the repose of the soul. Shifting moods and emotions are marked by changes in season, and the color motif of cherry blossoms appear on the panels, upstage, on the costumes of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and in their lighting scheme. Spring turns to autumn as Macbeth wades through blood in his campaign for power. When the production opened, the audiences saw a series of screen doors on stage. When the lights finally came up, long-haired witch figures played by male kabuki actors specializing in female roles, danced to falling cherry petals behind the semi-translucent screens in a cinematically inspired slow-motion scene. The presence of the otherworldly witches contrasted with the familiar symbol of a cherry tree. Upon closer examination, the screen doors, as a physical framing device, are similar in design to Japanese tabletop family altars. Like Kurosawa, Ninagawa transforms a mundane object into a symbol writ large to contain the dramatic action and confine some key characters. In a typical Japanese household, a Butsudan family altar would have ancestral tablets that enshrine ancestral spirits. On stage, inside the larger-than-life set of Butsudan altar, sit giant sculptural warrior god figures who seem to listen in while serving as the backdrop to many key scenes, such as Malcolm and Macduff's meeting to discuss military strategies. Silhouettes of the witches are projected by lighting the translucent screen doors from backstage. Positioning the witches behind the screen suggests that they do not exist on the same plane or in the same world as Macbeth. Last but not least, we note that the witches are presented cinematically in Ninagawa's otherwise theatrical production, and this stands in stark contrast to the human characters whose makeup and acting methods are borrowed from kabuki. Kurosawa's strategy to condense the three witches into one chorus figure stands in stark contrast to most English language films, which adhere to a group of three socially marginalized or asocial figures talking in unison or in turns. An example is Rupert Gould's stage-to-screen, made-for-television film starring Patrick Stewart. Stewart's Macbeth evokes the image of the Romanian dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. Most conversations occur in drab underground tunnels with uncanny echoes. Teal lighting accentuates the somber mood. Musical soundtracks give way to clanging metal doors, missiles overhead, explosions, and dripping water. The witches take multiple shapes, first appearing in a nightmarish wartime hospital as nurses who kill patients and later give life to corpses. They later appear as servants at the banquet, Lady Macbeth's attendants, and kitchen staff brandishing knives as other servants chop up meat. Gould's adaptation combines horror, film noir, and war film genres to depict the grotesque as not otherworldly but mundane, infiltrating the characters' daily lives. Meanwhile, Sonata of the Witches is a Taiwanese language musical. I invite you to read the translation in my edited book on Sinophone adaptations of Shakespeare, conceived by Po-shen and performed by the Taininer Ensemble in 2003. The production does not echo Kurosawa's visual motifs directly, but uses vocal work and full-face mask work that people use some normality. It is released in almost their home city, Hainan in southern Taiwan. The production, which has been revived multiple times over the years with the same script and stage set, excises male characters. It's retelling the story from female characters' perspectives. The witches, for example, who provide both singing and narration, are a near constant presence. They open the production singing and chanting against a backlit red background, carrying black umbrellas and neutral white masks. These witches are presented as both attractive and grotesque and exhibit multiple personalities and genders. On the back of their heads are masks showing the faces of old men with beards. This alludes to Macbeth's line, "Wind-struck and sun-dried faces," with their backs to the audiences. The witches address Macbeth in masculine voices through their masks, calling him the Thane of Calder and the future king. Macbeth questions about who they are and whether they are living people. This is a line transposed from Banquo. These lines take on additional meaning in the presence of their masks. Next, the witches turn around, revealing their faces and greeting Macbeth again with feminine voices. Throughout the production, they modulate their voices and swap different masks among themselves to create a sense of the uncanny. The full text of Sonata of the Witches has been translated into English, and it is available for reference in my book. These compelling works are in dialogue with one another, with Kurosawa and with Shakespeare. These varied and interconnected interpretations of the witches turn Macbeth into a twice-told and doubly removed story. This type of comparative analysis speaks to the importance of learning what to look for and how to see. The key benefits of studying adaptations as networks is a deeper understanding of performances as iterations and as processes that are connected to other works beyond Shakespeare. Students of diverse racial and linguistic backgrounds can feel represented, recognize diverse interpretations of the same scenes, deconstruct the notion of singularity of literary meanings, and lay claim to the play and to the knowledge that we create together. Global approaches help to decolonize Shakespeare's perceived whiteness. Adaptations in other languages not only enrich students' understanding of Macbeth, but also showcase that white embodiment and white American and British accents are not the only meaningful way to perform Shakespeare. So thank you for joining my keynote session. My email is here. Please feel free to reach out with any questions and comments. Have a wonderful day.